Yes. Good evening and welcome to Mike at Night. This is our launch of the program Mike at Night, and of course, we have a wonderful schedule for you. Let me just give you a rundown as what we are going to be having on this Mike at Night over the next 4 weeks. Because what we do is have a segment every month, and we're going to have the night doctor. And tonight we have a doctor on, and every once a month we are going to have a doctor on to give you free medical advice on issues and so on, or somebody who will be able to give us some measure of information that would help us to make a better life. Yes, and tonight we have a doctor on, and we're going to introduce that doctor when we get to that point. Next week we're going to have the men's issues, advocating for men, and we have Mr. Rundle Fields is going to be on, and he's going to be sharing with us, and we're going to be talking about some of the issues that men have, and particularly fathers. So we're talking about the stories of fathers, some of the stories of fathers when it comes to custody, etc. We're going to talk about that. The third week, we're going to have relationship matters, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that we have in relationships: man, woman, boy, girl, gender issues, and so on. Yep, we're going to talk about that. And then on the final week, we usually will now open up the telephone line, etc. Yes, we're going to have some giveaways, and we're going to have you to answer certain questions, and there are some businesses want to give away. I want to tell you that it is with pride that we welcome our sponsors for this program that is going to run every Thursday 9 p.m. and it is going to run continually, so look out for it. And our sponsors are Rapid Response Security Services. Thank you so very much for being on board with us. We also have Den's Electronics, and they are right in Scarborough, and we are happy to have them on board. Also, Double B Supermarket, thank you so much for being part of this. And of course, our Toes Cool Center. In this dry season, you're going to need toes. Yes, sir. All right, so we're going to have a poll, and the poll is going to be put up, and you'll see it on the Chiron in just a while, and then at the end we're going to figure out how many people have answered that poll. But before we do that, let me just tell you that we're going to have a break, and then that break we're going to give credit to the people who have made today possible, and then we'll introduce our guests for this evening. Like and share the page, everybody. Share the page to somebody and share the likes, and let's be part of this grand event. Mr. Master Control, back to you.
In today's society, we need security that is trustworthy, reliable, and efficient. Rapid Response Security Services Limited is here to meet all your needs. Since 1990, this security company leads while others follow, with a commitment to provide satisfaction in service. We specialize in modern and professional security systems. Contact us at 639-3517 or visit us at the Blue and White Building, Mount Mary, Scarborough, Tobago.
All right, so we are back. Let me say that we want to introduce to you our guest for this evening, the first guest for this great launch. Normally we would start off with a light topic, but we felt that we should start off considering the seriousness of what's going on in society today, particularly with COVID-19. So we wanted to give it the seriousness that it required. And there's a lady who is at the helm of one of the more relevant divisions currently, given what is taking place. Quite competent in that position. Dr. Faith B. Israel. She's an assemblyman. She's also the Secretary for Health, Wellness, and Social Protection. And of course, somebody who knows her job. She doesn't put water in her mouth. You'll find that out, I'm sure. But let me tell you, she is such a wonderful person that I have had the pleasure of having worked with her at one point in time. Dr. Faith B. Israel, welcome to the program. Hey. Wow. Baby, we'll get clap. I never get no clap, but it's all right. Let's go.
Right, I know. Good night, good night. Thank you. Also, I should say good evening. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being on this evening.
Right, good. So this issue of COVID-19, boy, I tell you, I know I do not envy anybody who has to lead any country or island during this time because it is such a trying situation. One of the things that I want to ask you is, there's so many stories that are on the outside there, and I just give you some of those stories, and then you'll probably give some clarity. We have heard that the vaccination for COVID is causing women to miss the periods or have irregular periods. I've heard that vaccination, some people are dying from the vaccination and not from COVID, etc. And I'm sure that you have a perspective on some of these. So could you weigh in on it for us, please?
Certainly. So yes, we are in a situation where we have to live with this virus. Now, before I answer those questions, I think there's some critical things we need to get kind of foundation. Okay. In 2019, late 2019, beginning of 2020, the world got involved in this pandemic where we had this virus known as a SARS-CoV-2 that caused us to get this disease known as COVID-19, coronavirus disease or coronavirus disease 19. Now, it's important to know that the 19 is just because it was discovered in 2019, not that there was a COVID-1 or a COVID-2 or anything like that. So let's start there, right? The SARS-CoV-2, which is the name of the virus, stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus-2. And it's important to talk about the -2 part because it shows that it is a virus that is kind of like a second generation. Now, I am using very simplistic terms when I say second generation. And it really, really comes from a SARS that we discovered many, many years ago. I'm sure many of you realize that there was a point where we were talking about having SARS in China and SARS in Japan and SARS. So this was what, more than 15 years ago. So it's kind of an offshoot from this, that virus. So it is a virus that we had been looking at, that the scientific community had been studying for more than 15 years now, more than 15 years now. So we now have a situation where we have this new version of it, this second generation version of it. My words, not necessarily scientific correct, but for conversation. And we now have to live with this virus. Part of living with it is using the vaccines. Now, I started by giving the description of what it was and what the virus was, because it's important for us to understand how the vaccines were made. And I want to start there because that is going to help explain some of the questions that you ask, right? Medical development, like every other kind of technological development, has evolved over time. Right now, Mr. Stewart, you are wherever you are. I am wherever I am. Heaven knows where the producers are, but we are all in the same space and we are broadcasting to the world. That is because of technology that has improved, where we have the cell phones and we have the computers and we have the internet and all of that. The same thing has actually been happening as it relates to vaccine development. So we have new technology, we have brand new technology, we have new ways of doing things, and all of that has come together for us to have these vaccines, and we have several different kinds of vaccines that are now available to help us live with COVID-19. Now, going back to your specific question, there is data that shows that if you are a woman or if you have a menstrual cycle and you take the vaccine, it can actually shift your menstrual cycle. That is actually something that we are seeing. But when you ask most women who have menstrual cycles, how easy it is for something to shift your menstrual cycle, they would tell you, if I get angry, that could cause it to shift.
I wonder at whom.
Exactly. If you know, if as
If you
stress
have that
at
stressful
work,
time on the
if you
job
have
over a
a
period of
stressful
time.
time, exactly, that happens. Some of them would even tell you if your husband or your boyfriend or who you're having sex with probably went out on the next side, that
Tell
could
us, tell us.
cause your period to shift a little bit. So the fact that our menstrual cycle shifts a little when we introduce the vaccine to our body is actually not something that is too much cause for concern, because our menstrual cycle shifts for any little thing that happens in our body. So that is something that is important for us to put into perspective. It is not supposed to cause you to stop your menstrual cycle completely. Now, if that happens, that you need to be concerned about, and that you need to reach out to a doctor or a nurse or somebody and let them know, hey, that happened. That is not supposed to happen, where it changes it or it shifts it completely so that you're not having it again for months later or anything like that. That you need to be concerned about. But a little delay or a little shorter or a little longer than normal, that's a normal thing for women. That's a very
It's
normal thing for
acceptable.
women. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, what do you think drives all of this conspiracy? Because there seems to be a serious pushback to it.
Well, one of the things we realize is that when people do not have information, um, the void is filled with other information. Several things happened and happened very quickly, and it happened without allowing people to have the context to understand what it means. Several things. So one, we have this virus that came out of nowhere or came out of wherever it went, and it is now causing us to be in a hoopla. That in itself, is causing people to say, oh, where did this virus come from? Was it man-made? Was it natural? Did it come from an animal? Didn't it come from an animal? By the way, the same thing happened when we started treating with HIV a couple of years ago. The same kinds of questions were going around in our minds when we started dealing with HIV 45 years ago. So that's normal. We also now have a situation where the vaccines seem to have come out of nowhere really quickly. But remember when I gave the description about the first version of the virus, it was 15, 17 years ago, we'd already started studying it. So it's not like this vaccines came on the scene immediately out of nowhere, starting on day one being 2019 or 2020. We'd been studying these kinds of viruses since way back when, and studying what to do if they become like what happened to us, a pandemic. How do you create the technology? Now, the other thing we need to be conscious of as well is that because of, and you probably want to blame social media or technology, we now have access to information that we did not know how to put into context. So for example, the information about having adverse events to a vaccine, that is normal. That is normal, normal, normal. When any kind of medication that you create, there are going to be people who have adverse events. And
I don't know what they gave me when I was in primary school, but they gave vaccinations, and we came down ill, but we recovered quite well.
And that is it. Trinidad and Tobago actually has one of the highest childhood vaccination rates in the world. It's one of the things that we boast about. All of our children, or most of them, 95, 98, depending on the vaccine, have been vaccinated, percentage have been vaccinated. So, and that's the other thing. Most people did not realize that when you take your newborn baby to clinic 3 months after they're born or 6 months after they're born, and they give them the injection, those are vaccines that they're giving them to prevent whooping cough and yellow fever and measles and mumps and all of those things. That is why we don't see people dying of measles and mumps and stuff like that right now, because we have been getting the vaccines for them as babies and we've been surviving. Now, the other thing that I think is critical is that we were bombarded with a lot of information that we did not know how to put into context. What do I mean by that? I remember getting a message from a very good friend of mine who said they were reading an article, and the article said that 50-something people got blood clots from the AstraZeneca, because remember that was the first vaccine that we had. 50-something people got blood clots from the AstraZeneca. And it was like, oh my God, this is horrible, 50-something people. It's the end of the world almost. But when you read the rest of the article, it was 50-something people out of about 13 million who had been vaccinated.
Okay.
So when you look at the percentage, that is less than 1%. It's less than 0.1%, as a matter of fact, of the people who got the vaccine who got a blood clot. But because we only heard 50-something people got blood clots and we did not know how to put it into perspective, we ran with that and thought, oh my God, this horrible thing is giving us blood clots. Let us not trust it, not realizing that blood clots is actually a normal part of different kinds of medication. By the way, blood clots is a normal part of, if you get COVID, it's one of the things that you can actually get, blood clots. If you use birth control pills, blood clots is actually one of the side effects that you can get if you use birth control pills. If you smoke cigarettes, blood clots is actually one of the side effects that you can get if you smoke cigarettes. And the probability of getting blood clots from all of those things that many of us do is way higher.
Let me get you straight. Let me get you straight. We are saying that we're getting blood clots from the vaccination. You are saying that you could get blood clots from smoking?
Yes. As a matter of fact, one of the negative side effects, one of the reasons they try to tell you do not smoke, is because there's such a high rate of getting a blood clot from smoking. Yes.
I wonder how many people have not gone for the vaccination but are smokers.
I am sure many are. And who use birth control pills, and who, all of these things that are normal to our lives, but there are risks associated with them, and the risk of the blood clot for those things are way higher than that of the vaccine. And by the way, one of the things we realize now is because we were able to learn so quickly about the blood clots associated with the vaccines, that even if you get a blood clot now with the vaccine, they give you a medication that you're fine. It's not a problem, because we were able to learn so quickly about it. And that is something that's critical. Now, something else that's important that most people don't recognize, again, it is context. Most of us really know that there are people who are diabetic and who need insulin to live. There are people who, if you give them insulin, they will die. They will have a negative effect. For whatever reason, they gave them too much insulin. Their issue was one that the insulin couldn't help. They had a bad reaction to it, whatever. Now, does that mean that we will stop using insulin for diabetics? No, because when you look at the larger picture, the number of people who get a negative response to insulin is really small compared to the number of people who insulin help because they are diabetic. So again, it goes back to us putting the information that is out there into context and not just running with the raw figures, but understanding what it all means in the world of medicine or in the world of science.
All right. Doc, we've got to pay some bills. So we got to go and pay the bills and come back. When we come back, I want to talk to you. I'm sure that you have other information to give, but the state of readiness of the health sector, particularly in Tobago, under your purview for what we have experiencing now. Okay, so we're going to go to the break and then we'll come back. Let me tell you that we'll be opening up the telephone lines after we've got some information from the great doctor, and the telephone number is 387-755-3. Yes, 387-7553. And I see you texts already start coming in with a question. Let me probably give that question to the doctor to consider it while we're on the break. One time, the question is, good night. If some doctors are speaking for vaccines and some against, while some doctors are saying one thing and others are saying the other about COVID, who do we listen to? All right, so that's on your plate when we come back. Let's go pay some bills.
In today's society, we need security that is trustworthy, reliable, and efficient. Rapid Response Security Services Limited is here to meet all your needs. Since 1990, this security company leads while others follow, with a commitment to provide satisfaction in service. We specialize in modern and professional security systems. Contact us at 639-3517 or visit us at the Blue and White Building, Mount Mary, Scarborough, Tobago.
Don't let the weather of the day dictate your pace. I stayed cool every time I got into my vehicle, and you can too. At Tow School Center of 31 Gaskin Bay Road, Bonaccord, they specialize in auto air conditioning with parts and services catering to your car's needs. Call and ask for tows at 660-8777 or 788-3535. Tow School Center, where a comfortable ride is a cool ride.
First place I go. First floor, Port Mall in Shopping Center, corner Sanchez and Milford Road in Scarborough. Telephone number 639-3497 and also 635-0470. Let me give you that number again. Make sure you write it down. 639-3497 and 645-0470. Make sure anything that you're dealing with electronics, call Dens first. Yes, sir. Yes, and of course, we want to encourage you to shop at Double B Supermarket. Double B Supermarket is located at 60 to 62 Government House Road, Scarborough, Tobago. Double B Supermarket, 639-5329. Double B always likes to say, Jesus is the answer. Yes, sir. Those are the people that we have on board for today. We're going to have some giveaways, so you make sure you stand by for that. The telephone number that you can call or send us a message if you have a question for the goodly doctor, send it at 387. I just got the number, trust me. So I'm trying to get it. 387-7553. I learned it because it is 2 3s, 2 7s, 2 5s, and 1 8. But it's the order I'm still getting it mixed up with. All right. So you could send us your message. And if you are on Facebook, you could send us your comment on Facebook or your question on Facebook. We'll try and pull that for you. If you've just joined us, Dr. Faith B. Israel, the Secretary of Health, Wellness, and Social Protection, and she's talking to us about living with COVID. And from what she's explained so far, I think we're making more out of this thing than we should. Yeah? So, Dr. Faith B. Israel.
So yes, so to answer the question about the contradicting information. Now, I think that's another thing that we as a scientists did not prepare the world for. Scientists, medical professionals going against each other is actually the foundation of science. It is how we get to the correct answer. And again, that is a normal process. So hearing people say one thing and then you go to a lab and you get a slightly updated information, and then 10 weeks later or a year later you get additional information. That is not contradicting each other. You're getting additional information. And I think that is what we need to be conscious of, that what we learned over the last 2 years as it relates to COVID is as a result of us continually questioning what we know. And
that's a good thing.
And that is a good thing. That is a very good thing. That is why, for example, going back to the thing with the blood clots, we now know that if there is somebody who has these symptoms after they take the vaccine and we think it's a blood clot, that we give this medication or that medication to help deal with it. That is how that process evolves. And I think people are so skeptical when they hear information that seem to not all be lining up, going in the same direction, that they don't recognize that that is exactly how the scientific community has come up with all of the answers that we have for all of the medicines that we use right now, for all of the technologies that we use right now. That is the process that is actually used. And we have to also recognize that we are only 2 years into this. We are only 2
Yes.
years into this. We are now getting to the point where we are really, really understanding HIV 40 years later as we go on. And let me just plug something. One of the reasons we were not able to do a vaccine for HIV many, many years ago, because of the technology that was now created to do the last groupings of vaccines, which is the mRNA vaccines. They have now realized that, hey, we now have this technology. Let's go back and see if we could use it for HIV. So 40 years later, we are using the technologies that we've just discovered as it relates to mRNA vaccines. And we're going to say, well, okay, let's use it for HIV because we couldn't figure it out back then, but we have the technology to figure it out now. And let's give another example. All of us have, most of us anyway, would remember 10, 20 years ago, where if you had a television, it will take 2 or 3 people to lift the TV because it was a big, heavy, hardback thing that you need to lift. Now, all of us, I'm sure, have at least one. Some of us have more than one. A flat screen TV that you can lift with one hand. It is much sharper. It's, all of these things are happening because of the new technologies that are available. And I personally am actually thankful that we are in a situation now where we can have those new technologies as it relates to COVID, as it relates to medicine, as it relates to, all of these things that are happening to us right now.
Okay. All right. So tell me, Doc, I think we may have had some internet interference slightly there. Where are we in Tobago? I know that you've been put in for a parallel system because you said that we can't burden the existing hospital with this new expedition that has come upon us. What's this current situation with that?
Well, it's not that we can't. We have already seen what happens when you do burden the system with it. I'm not sure if you realized that it was only maybe last week that we were able to open back some of our outpatient clinics at the hospital. Why was that? Because we were actually using the space for outpatient clinics to house patients with COVID. So we had a situation where we are treating with COVID, and because we are treating with COVID, we cannot treat all of the other diseases that people have, all, the diabetes and the heart disease and the cancers and the everything else that people have. And because we wanted to ensure that we move away from that, what we are currently doing is ensuring that we have the necessary facilities up at the old fort so that we can move. It would not be it would not be 100% of the patients with COVID up there, but it would be a very high percentage, 90 something. And let me give you a perfect example. Because of the facilities of the fort and the state of those facilities, we would not have an operating theater, for example, of the old fort. So if there's a COVID patient who needs an operation, then it has to be done at Signal Hill. We wouldn't be able to do it up the fort because we just don't have the facilities there to do it right now. So when we say parallel, it will not be 100% separate, but we will have a situation where it is only those special kinds of cases would still happen at Signal Hill, while everything else would happen up the fort. So that is what we are working on, getting there sooner rather than later.
Let's take some questions that coming in, and I remind you for you to post your questions on Facebook or call us at 387-7553, and you can also message us or call us live. You can call us live. We would love to hear a human voice in it. Doctor, this person is asking, who are the people to take a booster shot?
Okay, so let me explain why we need a booster. First, we need the vaccines that we have were created for a specific virus, the genetic makeup of this specific virus. If you realize since 2019 to now, though, we have been talking about this thing known as variants, right? A variant really is the mutation of the virus. What does that mean? The virus goes inside of our body. It forces our cells to replicate because that's the only way the virus can live and multiply. It has to happen inside our cells. But when that happens, because it's not a perfect system, the system actually is able to, it causes errors to happen. And the different errors is known as a mutation. If the error is very detailed or it's a large enough error, it then becomes a variant, meaning the virus is actually a little bit different to the one before. So we were talking about alpha, beta, delta, and now we have the Omicron. It's because that virus, Omicron, physically actually looks a little different than the original virus that we were working with. Why is that important? Because the vaccines that we created were actually made specifically to look for the virus in a particular way. And now that the virus is a little different, we are saying you need actually a slightly different version of the vaccine to work on the slightly different version of the virus that you are coming into contact with. So
I wonder if we've had that
boosters,
explained in that way before, because I think that I'm getting a completely new insight into this by that explanation, because people keep asking, why do we need a booster? You said that we would have been fully vaccinated with 2 shots, and now we talk about a booster and a second and third. But I think that what you're saying there makes sense, because if you're going to have some variations, then you're going to have to need to deal with those others with vaccination.
And that is why, for
Boosters.
example, in the US and even here, even though we have the flu and we have a flu vaccine, the flu vaccine that you get every year is a slightly different vaccine. They don't use the word booster, but it's a slightly different vaccine that you get this year compared to last year because the virus is slightly different. And it's the same thing that's happening with this. The virus is slightly different, and it is different because we are, the thing about it, it's one of those catch-22 things. The virus is dangerous enough to make you sick and to kill only a small percentage of the population. See, if it was a virus that as soon as you get it, you're dead, that it was such a horrible virus that as soon as you get it, you die, then it means that the virus would actually die with the people who have died. But because it is not so dangerous, meaning you do not die immediately, and you do not get so sick that you are in bed, you cannot interact, you are then a host of it, meaning
you have it spread while you are still alive and moving around.
And you feeling okay, but you are spreading it to other people. And the fact that you are spreading it to other people is an opportunity for it to multiply and change a little. So that is where the variants come in. So that is why we were saying from early up, let me try our best to not get people infected so that we don't start seeing these variants coming up. But now that the variants are here, we have to do our best now to try to protect ourselves from the variants.
Brian, let's go back to some questions. Well, we have a statement here. Excellent explanation and very simple to understand, says Black Demon Black. Menita Campbell is saying persons who got first and second dose after 6 months, those persons can get their booster shot. Is that correct?
Yes, that's actually correct. So there was a new schedule coming out from the Ministry of Health. So those who were getting their shots in July or so, they are due to get their booster right now.
Okay. Vina Joseph says, why does someone still die from COVID even when vaccinated from the virus?
Okay, so that let me take a little bit of time to explain how the vaccine works, right? Our immune system is made up of several cells, several different components. The immune system is there to do several things. One, to identify that there's a foreign entity, to say, well, this foreign entity is bad for me. Let me now mount a defense against this foreign entity. Let me fight against this foreign entity. And by the way, let me leave some information inside of you so that if you come into contact with that foreign entity again in the future, you're not starting from scratch. You already have your body already learn what it is, how to fight it, and has the army waiting to fight it. That is what our normal immune system does. What the vaccines do is allow us to go through that process without coming into contact with the virus. So it causes our body to think that it got the virus, to then start that process. So it means if you now come into contact with the virus, you already have that army in you waiting and ready to fight against the virus. That is what the vaccines do. Why do people still die? By the way, the data that I am seeing even in Tobago, coming from Tobago, is that the vast majority of people who are very sick and the vast majority of people who die from COVID have not been vaccinated. They have not been vaccinated. And that is something that I will release that data shortly to show that those people have not been vaccinated. But even if you have somebody who has been vaccinated, that person may actually be in a position where their body may not have been able to fight against the virus, even with the aid of the vaccine.
Okay, so I want you to that's where I think it is critical to the person who asked the question. So your body prepares for another attack from the virus.
Right.
Just take it from there now and explain that process there for us now.
So your body is now prepared because your body has now created these things called antibodies, which will then fight against the virus when it comes into contact with it in the future. The fact remains, though, that all of our bodies do not respond exactly the same way to anything, right? Some of our bodies may actually not have been able to go through that process to create the antibodies. So even though we got the vaccine, if you looked at our bodies, you would realize something happened at that time and our bodies did not actually create the antibodies against it for whatever reason. Or what we are seeing more of is that we are actually seeing people with what we call comorbidities. And what are comorbidities? Morbidities are illnesses. So comorbidities are other illnesses. So before you got COVID, you had diabetes, you had heart disease, you had high blood pressure, you had cancer, you had all of these other things. And now that your body is already fighting against those diseases, the fact that you've come into contact with the COVID, with the virus, means that your body now has to do so much more work. And even if you got the vaccine, your body may have been in such a horrible position generally that it just could not have done the work to fight against the virus. And let me give you an example of how this is so critical. For example, somebody who has diabetes, one of the things we've been seeing, sadly. So the person has diabetes and the person may have had controlled diabetes. But when they get COVID, we realize that they do not have COVID-like symptoms. So they don't have the normal cold and flu-like symptoms that you normally think of or that we originally thought of with COVID. They don't have those. But what the virus does is causes their blood sugar to skyrocket. So I know people, for example, who had normal blood sugars, 100 and something, maybe 200 if they didn't take the insulin or didn't take the medication. Now they have COVID and their blood sugar is 500, 600. Yeah. And because it is now 500 and 600, their body goes into what is known as ketoacidosis. And that actually causes them to die, because ketoacidosis, in essence, is really your body going through shock. It's poisoning itself, is what is happening. So you had COVID, but because you had diabetes, the COVID caused the diabetes to go so crazy, so out of whack, that it caused your body to go into shock, shock is not the correct word, but to almost poison itself. And that actually causes you to die. So that is why we were saying from the beginning that those people with comorbidities, those were the ones that we were seeing were getting very seriously ill and were dying. But it is only now, after some time, we are able to explain what is happening in those bodies, why they are dying. And that is why we were saying from the beginning, those are the people who you needed to get the vaccines, because they needed the additional help. They needed the additional help.
And unfortunately, those are the persons who were not going because they thought, having had the diseases, that having the vaccination would do them more harm than anything else.
Exactly. And I think that was as a result of our poor communication. And I think that was one of the things that our system had not done such a great thing within the last 2 years. We have not really taken the time to explain some of these things so that people really understand what was the situation. Because there are people who thought that comorbidities, meaning if you get the virus, you get another disease, not realizing that you had the disease before. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we were just using these words, not explaining what they meant, and that was confusing people. And then you have the thing where people were now saying, because you are afraid, because of all of the information you're hearing, I want to check out myself first before I get the vaccine. When in fact, you have not been checking out yourself all of these years.
Right.
And you have the high blood pressure, or you have the high blood sugar that you have not been taking care of all of these years. So you suddenly want to go and check yourself out, but then you don't actually go and check yourself out. So you wait and you wait and you wait, and then suddenly now you have COVID, your body is going through this whole trauma, and then unfortunately you have a negative outcome.
Right. All right. So let's. I think we're coming down to the end. We want to probably end at 50 minutes to the hour, and then we will have our own wrap up otherwise, because you've really done so much to be able to support us in that information department. The poll that we have is, are you in support of vaccination for COVID-19? Yes or no? Yep. Are you in support of, well, I see that we have the results already. 74% of people said that they're in support of it. 26% of people said no. You see, so we aren't doing too bad.
Well, but again, let me play devil's advocate here. As a social scientist, one of the questions I would quickly ask is how many people actually took the poll. And I mean, I know I should just run with the information, with the data showing on our side, but as a social scientist, we should ask how many people actually
took the poll in order
so that
to
we know whether it represents us or not. And that is the kind of questioning that we should really be doing when we are asking about these kinds of things.
Well, you see, it's your skills coming out, your training. As we are on that, Doc, you have an aim as to what percentage you want to have vaccinated on the island. Tell us about that, and tell us whether you are approaching your goal.
So it is not an aim that I have. It is an aim that is scientifically identified, based on understanding how quickly the virus transfers from one person to each other, meaning how infectious it is, and what we need to do to prevent more people from getting infected. There's like a threshold we need to get to prevent additional people from getting infected. The initial rounds of COVID, of the virus, had a rate of about 60% as the threshold for what we call herd immunity. I know that just that term causes people to be upset, because you're talking about herd, you're talking about animals, you
Cattle.
talk about cow,
Mhm,
cattle,
mhm.
but actually that is where it came from. Because if you are in a cattle, if you are in a cattle, in a cattle of cows, then the ones in the middle are actually protected by the fact that all of them are there together. And that is what herd immunity is. If you have a large enough percentage of the population vaccinated, then even if one person is sick, and let's use an example, let's say you have 10 people in the room, 8 of them are vaccinated, 2 of them are not, but the 2 who are not vaccinated are on either ends of the room. Even if you have somebody get one person sick, that person then has to pass all 8 people to then get to the other person to make them sick. The 8 people in the middle are actually protecting that one other person by herd immunity. So that number is shifting now because of how much these new variants are infecting people. They are more infectious. So we needed to get up to about 80% or so at least. The reality is that we are all going to develop some level of herd immunity one way or the other. Either we get vaccinated or we get the virus and survive. And let
All
me see,
right.
you have to survive.
Let me just go and quickly give you some of those questions on Facebook. If someone has cancer, let's say had cancer, I'm seeing had cancer before, can they still take the vaccine?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What the other question is, what can you tell us about pre-existing conditions and COVID, vaccination or unvaccinated?
Well, that's what I said. When we say comorbidities, that's what we're talking about, pre-existing conditions. If you have diabetes, that is a pre-existing condition, or high blood pressure, pre-existing condition. Those are what the comorbidities are. And those are the ones who seem to have the negative effects, who have the worst outcomes if they have COVID versus, somebody who is young, strong, and healthy. Their body is able to fight off the virus easier than somebody whose body is already battling with cancer, battling with diabetes. So those
Yes.
are the ones. Everyone needs to get the vaccine now, because what we are realizing is that even with Omicron, before when it was not affecting young children as much, we are realizing that Omicron is actually affecting even younger children now. And with our children going back to school from next week, some of them anyway, it's a more likely a space where they can get infected. So that's why we're encouraging people to get the
Yeah.
vaccine, even children.
Let's just take this call. Welcome, Mike at Night.
Good evening, Mike at Night. Good evening to Dr. Faith.
Good evening.
I must say that the explanations have been very simple and effective, and I would just like to have my question answered. I had the AstraZeneca vaccine. If I am to take the booster, I understand that it should be the Pfizer. And I do have some concerns about the mixing of the vaccine. So could this Dr. Faith give us some information to help, make us more comfortable about the mixing of the vaccines, please? Thank you.
Sure. As a matter of fact, I am in that same position. I was one of those who got the vaccines pretty early up. I kind of waited until, the initial group of people got theirs. And then I went very early. So AstraZeneca was the only option when I got my vaccines initially. But I have been boosted with Pfizer. And it is one of the recommended what do you call it, protocols, because when you look at how the two vaccines work, it's not a problem to mix them. The AstraZeneca is using an older type of technology. The Pfizer is using one of the newer, the mRNA technology, but together they're showing that they're getting pretty good outcomes in terms of not getting infected, or even if you do get infected, that you do not get severely ill, because that is critical. You may still get infected, but you will survive.
Right. And that's critical.
That is critical.
387-7553. That's the telephone number to call us. Dr. Faith B. Israel in studio answering your questions. Tonight is the segment Night Doctor. We would have a doctor on every so often. The let's take, we have so many questions coming in, Doc. I want to just see if I could. What is being done regarding employees who are refusing to be vaccinated? Is this putting others at risk?
So I would actually almost stay away from the kind of conversations where we were trying to put vaccinated versus unvaccinated people against each other. I think that was part of our problem in the first place. So, the aim is to get everyone vaccinated. What we recognize is that there are people with real questions and real concerns, and what we should be doing is trying our best to answer those questions and to resolve those concerns. The vaccinated versus unvaccinated argument, I try my best to not get into that at all, because I don't think it helps the situation at all. Let's get the questions answered so that people are comfortable so that they can get vaccinated.
Denison McIntyre said, I took my 3 shots without any problems, even though I dealt with 2 different cancers. Okay.
Wow.
Wonderful.
You are a blessing.
Yes. All right.
Other questions?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where that one was coming from. I think that there is something that is open. Okay. Oh, I think I was taking the information from Facebook, and I may have pressed the volume on Facebook that was coming through and getting me mixed up. All right, 387-7553. With this, we could probably take one more call. I want to say thank you to our sponsors. We're going to take that break and go to the sponsors. Rapid Response Security Services, boss people. And I tell you, when you want good security, you check them. Denz Electronics, that's in the Port Mall, right in Scarborough. And of course, Toes Cool Center, one of the best guys that you will ever meet, and one of the greatest servicemen that you have to fix your air condition in your vehicle. Yes, and so we're happy to have them. Double B Supermarket, friendly, family type atmosphere for you to be able to get your supermarket needs. Yes, let's go to the advertisement, Mr. Control.
In today's society, we need security that is trustworthy, reliable, and efficient. Rapid Response Security Services Limited is here to meet all your needs. Since 1990, this security company leads while others follow, with a commitment to provide satisfaction in service. We specialize in modern and professional security systems. Contact us at 639-3517 or visit us at the Blue and White Building, Mount Mary, Scarborough, Tobago.
Don't let the weather of the day dictate your pace. I stayed cool every time I got into my vehicle, and you can too. At Tow School Center of 31 Gaskin Bay Road, Bonaccord, they specialize in auto air conditioning with parts and services catering to your car's needs. Call and ask for tows at 660-8777 or 788-3535. Tow School Center, where a comfortable ride is a cool ride.
Okay, and of course, we have Denz Electronics. Those are the people who see about your electronic needs. Their telephone number is 639-3497 and 345-0470. Denz Electronics, first floor, Port Mall Shopping Center. Let me tell you, if you're really looking for good groceries, good service, and good convenience, check out WB Supermarket. 60-62 Government House Road, Scarborough. Jesus is the answer. 639-5329. We have in studio Dr. Faith B. Israel, Secretary for Health, Wellness, and Social Protection. We were supposed to cut off the discussion already, but the number of questions coming in, I would hate to not give as many as possible before we actually close down the program. So, Doc Vin Um, wonderful information. Since the Omicron variant seems to be slightly less deadly, are you concerned about the possibility of variant that may come along that even more terrible?
Um, yes, we are always concerned about what is next. And I think it's important to note that we think that Omicron is milder, but milder does not mean mild. Milder means exactly. So it can still be real bad. It may not kill you, but it still could be really bad. And we have to worry about something that we are seeing known as long COVID, which means individuals who get COVID months and months and months after they have recovered, they still have not recovered. And we now have to deal with the consequences of having somebody who does not have the energy that they had before, who does not have the dexterity, who can't lift as much stuff as they did before. And we now have to deal with that, or may have lung damage or other damage because they have COVID. And we now had to live with that. So you may have survived it, but yeah, life, and we're not sure what that would mean later down. Let me just say, one of the things I see people commenting about as well is the idea of encouraging healthy eating and healthy living and healthy lifestyle as a way to boost our immune system. And that is important, that is critical, but I want us to also be honest with ourselves. Most of the times when most of us as medical professionals, as health professionals, when somebody came to us 10 years ago with diabetes or with high blood pressure, we told you back then to eat healthy, to exercise, to live a healthier lifestyle. Most people did not follow those instructions.
They know your
So
numbers.
exactly, know your numbers way back when. But
Mhm.
most people did not follow through. Most people did not change their diet or did not exercise the way they should. So for you to now come and say that doctors should be telling people to exercise and to diet and so forth is kind of like, yeah, but we've been telling you that all the time and you wasn't doing it.
Mhm.
We've been telling you that for the last 10, 20 years. You ignored it. So you're now to vex with us that we didn't tell you the same thing we've been telling you for the last 20 years that you were ignoring.
Mother used to say, when a box stick at your ears.
Yes, yes. So again, yes, those things are important. Those things are critical. But you changing your diet now or you exercising now is good for a little later in the future. It is not necessarily going to save you if you get COVID the first day you started exercising or the first day you started eating correctly. Those are long-term effects that we are hoping you would adopt. But we can't use that to fix the issue that we are dealing with right now. And we have to be conscious of that fact.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, we've really out of time, but you have really utilized your time here very wisely. We appreciate that so much. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get source some of the doctors for our night doctor program from your division, so that they'll come on and give us some information that would help us to be able to make Tobago a healthier place, etc. Any closing comments before you leave?
Sure, I am encouraging people to get the accurate information. Your questions are important questions. I have had people who say to me, they want to take the vaccine, but they are afraid that they will die, literally afraid that they will die. That is a real fear. That's a real concern. Get your questions answered, but ensure that when you do it, it is from a reputable source that actually understands what they're talking about and can give you this information in a way that makes sense to you. There are a lot of people who are pushing a lot of stuff there that if you ask them, how does the vaccine work? How does their immune system work? They can't answer you. Those people you need to be a little bit conscious about, that you are not necessarily taking a lot of advice from somebody who doesn't even understand the process, because they may just be repeating what somebody else told them, what somebody told them, and that might not necessarily be accurate information. So we need you to get the accurate information so that you can make a conscious decision that may actually save your life or save the life of somebody you love, when we're encouraging you to do that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it so very much, and hopefully we'll get you back again. Oh, there you go again. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. God bless. We've been talking with Dr. Faith B. Israel, affable woman. And you can't question her qualification, yeah, certainly, because you just listen to her and listen to her break down complex discussions. You know she's on board. So we had a very good one for that first night. We're looking forward for next week. But let me give some giveaways now. I want to give a giveaway. We have the West Side Electrical. West Side Electrical have been doing a marvelous job, and I want to they giving away some stuff this evening. They want to give a $200 voucher for anything that you want in West Side, and I want you to call in and tell me something about West Side. So giving you a chance to Google, that's what I'm doing. Give you a chance to Google West Side and see if you could find out who they are. Yeah? All right. So check them out and give us a call. Not no text. Give us a call and tell us something, and you get $200 voucher, and you could go into West Side and you get something, or you add on to it and get something good. All right. You, mister, you're rolling over the people and them to try and get to the Google to do it fast. No. Yeah. Yeah. So that we want you to do. Tell us something about Westside. Give us a call now. I'm sure that you're going to need to get something. The Westside Electrical and Plumbing Limited. Their telephone number is 639-8761. I'm going to tell you their number one time. 639-8761. So don't call and tell me what their telephone number is. I just told you. Yeah. So next week, let me tell you, while we wait on a call coming in, next week, what we're going to do is have Mr. Rundle Fields is going to be in. He, of course, you know, it was previously called Single Fathers Association, but it's now called, I think, Fathers Association. And men who have been asking for custody feel disenfranchised with this whole aspect of custody, and we're going to be dealing with that. There's going to be a legal aspect to some of the discussion we're having. I have one or two friends who are legal luminaries. I have a particular friend who has been very close to me, and he's going to be coming, and we're going to ask him to give you some free legal advice on various topics. And if you have a topic that you want some legal advice on, you give us a call and let us know. You see, let us know, and then we're going to put that on the program so that he can address, and we're going to let him know that in advance. This is the topic that we want. Yes. Yep. Nobody wants to call in and tell us something you haven't Googled. All right, let's see if we could take this caller. Yes, caller, good evening. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I'm calling concerning West Side Electrical.
West Side Electrical, nicely. So tell us something about West Side. Let's see if you know anything or you have Googled anything to find out about them.
Well, actually, I've been in West Side Electrical. I've replaced my my bulbs, my fluorescent bulbs from there. They sell plumbing. They are located in Keenan.
Right.
In Tobago. I think the building is real orange.
Well, I can't remember the color, but all right.
But yeah, it's on one of those side streets. I just can't remember.
Sincere Street is the name of this street.
That's right, Sincere Street.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Good. All right. Well, you just want to sell $200 vouchers, so you could go inside of there, look at anything with $200. If you want, you add on an extra $100 and buy something for $5.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Nicely. So,
much.
of course, we'll take the information off air for the caller. And
no problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. West Side. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I have a temptation to give away something else, you know. I will consider that. Let me tell TOS School Center, Rapid Response Security Services, Double B Supermarket, and Dent Electronics. We're so happy that you came on board. And I see that somebody is asking, and people have been asking, how do they become sponsors or giveaways? Yeah, the telephone number is there, 387-7553. Just send us a text or a message, give us a call, and you could become a sponsor and be part of this great program that we have on. All right, let me also thank the people who are behind the scenes that usually get overlooked, because, and when things looking good outside of here, we say, oh, you know, the program is so good and people looking good and so on. The people who make this happen. One gentleman is called Sidney Jones, young fella. I'm telling you, talent to burn. When you talk some of these electronic things, those guys are good. And another man called Leon Lewis. He is CEO, president, executive director, owner, founder of Label TV Network. He has so many hats in this one place. Boy, I tell you. But we want to thank him so much for making this program possible and for having the platform for us to be able to do it. If you enjoyed it, let me just use 2 minutes to just get you to call in and just say, how was the program for the first night? This is our launch, and we expect to hear you and other programs. We have the relationship program coming up, and we have the legal program coming up. Just give us a call now, 387-7553. Tell us, just give your own feedback. How was it this evening? How was it? And then we're going to close off. Yes, 387-7553. How much for a call? Couple cents. Yeah, then call. Let us know. Those on Facebook, you could post how you felt about the program on Facebook. We would read it, and we would I see a set of love going up there, man. We mama. Yes. Set of love going up. Yeah. They see you have plenty titles. Somebody's in. All right. Hello, good day.
Hello, good night. Good night, Mike.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Talk to me.
I must say I fully enjoyed the program. I think the ambience and the mood of it has helped Dr. Faith do a fantastic job in terms of laying out the information that would make even the 26 people that voted, the 26% that voted that they may not take a vaccine.
They make we consider now.
Think about it. Yeah, you understand? So I think it is a wonderful, wonderful setting. I'm very, very proud.
Yes.
Right? So keep it up. Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. And by the way, this is Ted Jones. Ted Jones is going to be with us on the program on that final week, on the 4th week. And he's going to be co-hosting with me when we have the open microphones. You'll get to love Ted. Thank you very much, Ted.
No problem, man.
Nicely. Good. All right, so let's get that other caller. There's another caller was calling in while that was on. We're going to take that. Sidney, wasn't you that gave him the titles? All the titles that my boy have. Encore for Dr. Faith, said Vina Joseph. Denison, all of you people. Yeah. I'm looking forward for my friend Leon Williams is the person that I'm going to be on giving us some legal advice. And I'm saying you love Leon too. Leon and Ted, peas and pot. There are people close to me, and I'm looking forward also for Dr. Gunnar Okiki, who's our family doctor, and he used to be on the first mic at night. I've invited him to give us some. He's an internal medicine specialist and excellent doctor. So some of the things that you actually will be gaining for, let me tell you, it's going to be really, really beneficial to you. You gain a lot. All right. I thought we had another call. What's coming in? Apparently the person changed their mind. All right. So thank you all very much. That's the best information I heard about the vaccine, says Glenda Allen. Thank you very much, Glenda. Yes, I completely agree. Dr. B. Israel really broke things down and addressed the major concerns people tend to have. Yeah, Mike, I'm good. It was beautiful program. Great. Yeah, nicely. Adrian, good advice. Counseling. Yes. Denison, thank you very much. Elon, great show. Yeah. All right, so these guys who handle us and do such a great job, they have an early morning show again. So we don't want to weary them all. Thank you very much, all of you. And sitting in with me is the chow man, Devon Egad, who making sure that from this end, we get it right. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Mike at Night. See you all next week, Thursday, 9 p.m. We out of here. Ciao.
In today's society, we need security that is trustworthy, reliable, and efficient. Rapid Response Security Services Limited is here to meet all your needs. Since 1990, this security company leads while others follow, with a commitment to provide satisfaction in service. We specialize in modern and professional security systems. Contact us at 639-3517 or visit us at the Blue and White Building, Mount Mary, Scarborough, Tobago.
Don't let the weather of the day dictate your pace. I stayed cool every time I got into my vehicle, and you can too. At Tow School Center of 31 Gaskin Bay Road, Bonaccord, they specialize in auto air conditioning with parts and services catering to your car's needs. Call and ask for tows at 660-8777 or 788-3535. Tow School Center, where a comfortable ride is a cool ride.